Here's something that might change how you see the avoidant in your life. They didn't choose to pull away from you. They were trained to. Not by a therapist, not by a book, by the people who were supposed to teach them how to love before they even had the words for what was happening to them. And the most painful part? Most avoidants have no idea any of this happened. Because the families that create avoidant attachment don't look broken from the outside. A lot of the time, they look completely normal. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how avoidant attachment actually forms, the specific experiences, the developmental windows, the invisible messages that wire a child's nervous system to read love as a threat. If you've ever been confused by someone who clearly has feelings for you but can't seem to let you in, stay with me. This is going to explain a lot.
Before we get into how it forms, let's make sure we mean the same thing by avoidant attachment. There's a big misconception here. Most people hear avoidant and think selfish, emotionally unavailable, doesn't care. That's not what this is. Avoidant attachment is a survival strategy. It got built by a child who learned through repeated experience that showing emotion was dangerous, that needing people led to disappointment, that the safest option was to handle everything alone. John Bowlby, the psychologist behind attachment theory, described it like an alarm. A child's attachment system goes off when they feel scared or need connection. In a healthy home, the parent answers that alarm, and the child learns the world is safe, people can be trusted, I'm worth loving. In a home that creates avoidant attachment, the parent doesn't answer, or they answer in a way that punishes the alarm for going off in the first place. So the child learns to switch the alarm off entirely. That isn't coldness. That's a kid doing the only thing they could to survive where they lived.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever told the avoidant in your life, I just want you to talk to me, and gotten back a blank stare or a sudden change of subject? Here's where that comes from. The most common childhood experience behind avoidant attachment is something researchers call emotional dismissal. A child expresses a feeling, sadness, fear, excitement, and the caregiver consistently minimizes it or shuts it down. Stop crying. You're fine. That's not a big deal. Don't be so sensitive. Each one seems small, but repeated hundreds of times, sometimes thousands, across an entire childhood, they hand the developing nervous system one clear message. Your emotions are too much. Hide them. So the child does. They stop crying. They stop asking. They learn to deal with pain by not dealing with it, burying it and moving on. That kid becomes an adult who goes quiet when things get hard, who shuts down in conflict, who says, I'm fine, when they're obviously not. And not because they're lying. They genuinely can't reach what they're feeling. That pathway got closed a long time ago.
The second experience is quieter, and in some ways, it does more damage. Conditional love. The child learns that affection and attention and approval are all available, but only when they perform. Good grades, no problems, being the easy one in the family. These kids usually look like model children. Calm, self-sufficient, no drama, and the parents think they're getting it right. But what the child is actually absorbing is this. I'm only lovable when I'm useful. The second I have a need, the second I show weakness, I could lose the love that keeps me safe. So they stop having needs. They get hyper-independent. They figure everything out alone because asking for help feels like a bet they can't afford to lose. Sound familiar? This is the adult who insists on doing it all themselves, who gets uncomfortable the moment someone tries to take care of them, who reads vulnerability as weakness every single time. It isn't arrogance. It's a kid who learned that leaning on someone was the most dangerous move available.
This one is the hardest to spot, and it's the reason so many avoidants honestly believe their childhood was fine. Emotional neglect doesn't always look like neglect. The house can be clean. There can be food on the table. The parents can be right there in the room. But if feelings are never talked about, if the child's inner world is never noticed, if love only shows up as doing and never as feeling, that child grows up emotionally alone. Someone online described it exactly. It was a neglectful, emotionally unavailable childhood where avoidant behavior felt normal to my nervous system. Normal to their nervous system. Not traumatic, not dramatic, just normal. Because emotional neglect is defined by what didn't happen. There's no event to point at, no single memory, just a quiet absence of emotional attunement stretched across years of growing up. And since there's nothing specific to name, the avoidant adult tends to say, "My childhood was fine. My parents did their best." And they mean it. They're not in denial. They literally can't see the wound because the wound is an absence, not an injury. That's why avoidant attachment is the hardest style to recognize in yourself. The defense is baked into the pattern.
Here's the part that I think makes it really click. This isn't only psychology. There's neuroscience underneath it. In the first few years of life, a child's nervous system is still under construction, and how it gets wired, what it decides about safety and connection and threat, is shaped almost entirely by those early relationships. When a caregiver meets a child's distress with warmth and comfort over and over, the nervous system learns connection equals safety. When a caregiver meets it with dismissal or absence or frustration, the nervous system learns something else. Connection equals risk. And once that's wired in, it doesn't politely disappear in adulthood. It runs underneath conscious thought. It's why an avoidant can genuinely want closeness and still feel physical discomfort when someone gets too near. Their brain isn't being irrational. It's running a program written in childhood, one built to keep them safe. That's not something a person can just decide to switch off. It takes time, awareness, and usually a lot of work.
And this part matters. Not all avoidant attachment looks the same in adulthood. Depending on the exact childhood environment, people tend to land in one of two avoidant subtypes. Dismissive avoidance usually grew up in homes where emotions were consistently waved off, or where being self-reliant got heavily rewarded. These kids learned, "I don't need anyone. I'm enough on my own." As adults, they suppress emotion efficiently. They value independence over closeness, and they pull back when a relationship gets deep. But they don't really fear the other person. They just don't feel they need them. Fearful avoidance often had a more chaotic, unpredictable start, where the caregiver was sometimes warm and sometimes frightening. That puts a child in an impossible bind. The person they need for safety is also the source of the danger. As adults, fearful avoidants want love badly, but the closer someone gets, the more the nervous system reads that closeness as a threat. They push away the exact thing they're chasing. Two very different presentations, same core wound underneath both of them. A childhood where emotional safety wasn't reliably there.
So, what do you actually do with this? First, none of this is an excuse for hurtful behavior. Understanding where avoidant attachment comes from doesn't mean you have to accept being shut out, stonewalled, or emotionally abandoned. Those things still happen to you, and they still count. But here's what it does change. It moves the frame from "they don't want me" to "they don't know how to let me in." That's a different problem, and it has a different solution. When an avoidant goes silent, they're not punishing you, they're regulating. When they brush off their own feelings, they're not playing you. They're running a survival program that was written long before they ever met you. Knowing that doesn't make it painless. It just makes it make sense. And that's what this channel is for. Decoding the distance so you can stop guessing and start seeing clearly. If this helped you understand someone in your life a little differently, or helped you understand yourself, that's the whole point. Did you grow up in a home where emotions got talked about openly? Or was that not really a thing? Next, I'm breaking down the difference between dismissive avoidant and fearful avoidant behavior in real relationships, because most people have no idea which one they're actually dealing with. So subscribe if you don't want to miss it.